Hey everyone, I am Gunkle Mark, and if this is your first time watching one of my videos, I want to thank you for clicking on the thumbnail, and I hope you enjoy what you're about to watch. If you are a subscriber, or if you've watched any of my videos in the past, I want to thank you for your patience. Sometimes real life does have to take precedence over things I do here. In one moment I was writing a script for my video, and the next moment I was writing a resume because I'd lost a job that I'd had for almost 6 years due to budget cuts, and I knew my department was overstaffed, but I never expected there would actually be any budget cuts or that I would be one of the ones being budget cut. Do I sound bitter? Don't worry, I am employed now as a games dealer at our local casino, which means I no longer work remotely and I have less time to devote to here. But while I've been away, I've thought about other things that I wanted to do with this channel. I love making lists, but I thought about how I want to expand, and one day I was looking at my old CD collection and I saw that I had a few compilation albums, not the K-Tel, Time Life, now that's what I call music greatest hits compilations. I mean the ones that share a theme.
Maybe Miss Shields in her ecstasy would excuse me from theme writing for the rest of my natural life.
Not that kind of theme, Ralphie. I'm talking about having something in common. I saw on my rack, If I Were a Carpenter, the Carpenters tribute album featuring Sheryl Crow, the Cranberries, and Sonic Youth, among others. I saw Red Hot and Blue, the Cole Porter compilation featuring K.D. Lang, Erasure, and Sinead O'Connor, among many more. And then I saw the album that I am going to review here, just in time for the holidays. A Very Special Christmas, the original 1987 release with the cover art that features Keith Haring's iconic Madonna and Child. Not that Madonna, we'll get to her shortly. There have been several sequels to this one, all being used as fundraisers for the Special Olympics. So even though some of the reviews will be negative, and for a good reason, I do want to commend the artists for coming together for a good cause. I will review all the songs on this album and rank them from worst to first. Now keep in mind, it's just my opinion and yours may vary, but if you leave a comment for me, as long as you keep it civil, I will try to answer it. I do appreciate them, as well as any likes you may give this video, and if you subscribe to my channel, again, thank you. And since this is the season for bell ringing, don't forget about notifications. So we're going to start at number 15 with a song that's actually been removed from the album, and I think there's one appropriate word that describes why. Bon Jovi hit it huge the year before with Slippery When Wet, their breakthrough album, and they could have chosen any rock song to record for this, but they decided on a live version of Backdoor Santa, a blues song written by Clarence Carter, which became a Christmas hit for him in 1968. If you know his name, he had a couple of top tens with Slip Away and the classic tearjerker Patches. But he had a brief revival in 1986 with Strokin', which I remember the video for. I think I saw it on Friday Night Videos, if anyone remembers that show. So right off the bat, Bon Jovi isn't a blues rock outfit. They are arguably the best hair metal band ever. This song wasn't the right fit for them to begin with. Second, the synth is absolutely cheesy and sounds like it's trying too hard to fit in when it's obvious how out of place this is. Third, what comes off as bawdy and humorous for Clarence just sounds sleazy from Bon Jovi. Cheesy and sleazy, were those the original names for Itchy and Scratchy? I think they knew it, which is why in 1992 the song was replaced on subsequent releases of this album with another of their songs, I Wish Every Day Could Be Like Christmas. I mean, when you literally remove a song from an album like this, you know you made a mistake recording it. And I wish Madonna had realized that.
Santa baby, slip a staple under the tree for me.
This legitimately could have been at the bottom, and I've seen so many posts online about how hated this song is, and there is so much bad about this version. First, the song itself gets criticism for the gold-digging aspects of it. At least Eartha Kitt's classic version is slinky and sultry, so you get the appeal of it. But Madonna isn't sleeky and sultry. She's brassy and bold. Just listen to Material Girl from 2 years earlier and you could hear how she could have sung this song. But instead, she's impersonating Mae West, impersonating Betty Boop. And if you don't know who those two are, Google it. But then she adds this weird New York accent, which when combined with her Great Lakes accent, makes her sound like she's channeling Lena Lamont.
And I can't stand them.
Again, Google it. However, all that wouldn't be so annoying if her voice wasn't so flat. There are times when her voice is truly off key, and as someone with almost perfect pitch, it grates on my ears so much. For the longest time, I've considered this Madonna's worst vocal performance, until she was at Eurovision. But speaking of bad vocals,
Silent night, holy night.
Stevie Nicks' voice wasn't in great shape at that time. I have a feeling that being both a solo artist and recording with Fleetwood Mac plus all the touring really strained it. I mean, you can hear how she has to drop an octave because she won't be able to hit any higher notes. Instead, the higher notes are supplied by an overwrought male voice trying his best to sound soulful and instead just being jarring. That was one bad choice to add him, but the second one was to add, well, it was a silent night to extend the song, and it comes off to me like some weird Bob Dylan impersonation. I've never been able to shake that idea off in my head. She's trying to be both reverent and rock and roll, but it misses on both ends. As does our number 12.
Call, they told me,
Not great, Bob.
This song is another that shows up on worst lists no matter who sings it. The lyrics are awful, with baby Jesus apparently having the ability to nod and smile after just being born, and the ox and lamb being able to keep time to the drum beat. That kind of Christmas miracle stuff just makes me roll my eyes. And no one can make the words pa-rum-pa-pum-pum sound any less silly. Now, unless the boy is John Bonham, Ginger Baker, or Neil Peart, I expect that his drumming sounds like a second grade class recital, and the gift is having to not listen to any more of it. Bob Seger tries his best to give the song some life, but instead of awestruck, his vocals come off constipated. I mean, seriously, give this man some fiber supplements. With the plodding tempo, I just feel depressed listening to this. And speaking of depressing,
little tiny child.
the next two songs on this list are songs that I don't dislike, but they would not make any of my holiday playlists. And the first of these is the Coventry Carol, which dates back to the 16th century. It's usually performed during a Christmas pageant where three women sing this lullaby to their children about the slaughter of innocents by Herod. Yeah, morbid. I expect a lot of Americans aren't familiar with the song, and for that matter, they don't know the singer, Alison Moyet, though you do hear her voice in that Truly commercial with the man dancing on the pool water.
Blue-eyed dress for every situation.
She was the lead of Yaz/Yazoo, who were one of the best new wave acts with Situation, Don't Go, and Only You among their best known songs. She did hit the US Top 40 as a solo singer with Invisible, and she had 6 top 10s on the British charts. She's one of the more underrated singers of the 80s. She could belt out dance numbers and croon soft ballads and never sound off. And she gives the needed gravitas to this song. As I said, I think it's well done. But the subject matter just doesn't scream Happy Holidays like a Starbucks barista.
The angel Gabriel from heaven came.
Sting loves his world melodies, and this fits his niche. It's an English translation of a Basque folk carol, which itself is based on a Latin hymn dating around the 14th century. I am a fan of his. I have seen him in concert both with the Police and as a solo artist, and I always find his music interesting. And I do feel that this hymn is just that. His vocals are fine, and they do express the reverence needed for this. Although, is it just me, or does it seem like he's singing Most Highly Flavored Lady? It's just me, I'm sure. The one thing that's keeping this song from being higher is this pounding, throbbing synth that sounds a lot like a foot massager. I think if he had sung this a cappella, this would have been amazing. The next 3 songs on my list fall under the category of, were they necessary? None of them are bad, but all are covers whose originals are superior. And so starting at number 9, we have Bryan Adams, who is no Chuck Berry. I mean, to be fair, who could top Chuck's early rock masterpiece? Everything else would end up sounding like karaoke. And for me, that's what's happening here. This live version is well performed. Brian's voice fits the song. The guitar work is fine. But it all ends up sounding like background music for a Christmas party. There's just not much more to it. Which is kind of how most of Brian's songs are.
Santa Claus is coming to town. Santa Claus is coming to town.
The Pointer Sisters owe their biggest success to Bruce Springsteen, who will be coming up on this list shortly. Bruce wrote the song Fire, which the sisters took to number 2 on Billboard, becoming their highest charting hit. So when they recorded this, they decided to recreate Bruce's live version for the studio and even had Clarence Clemens from the E Street Band on sax. It's a pretty faithful version with a few pieces adjusted for them, but I can't help but feel like it was the wrong version for them to record. I think that if they had covered the Crystals version from the famous Phil Spector Christmas album, that would have been better. They could have done the girl group sound with an 80s twist and made this one stand out more. Why remake the boss's sound when he's on the same album? So for me, this ends up mid. But while we're talking about the Phil Spector Christmas album, at least U2 didn't try sounding like Darlene Love.
It's Christmas. Baby, please come home.
U2 was a critical darling throughout the 80s, and the Joshua Tree was released earlier that year to raves, massive airplay on radio and MTV, and big sales. It would establish them as one of rock's premier bands, even to this day. Their rendition of Darlene's classic is unmistakably U2, full of great guitar work from Adam Clayton and The Edge, as well as Bono's wailing, passionate vocals. It takes guts to take on one of the greatest Christmas recordings and try to make it their own. And for the most part, they succeed. But at the same time, unless you're listening to a classic rock station's Christmas songs, this isn't the one you're going to hear on a regular basis. After all, there's a reason why David Letterman kept asking Darlene Love to appear every Christmas time to sing her signature song. When it comes to Christmas rock classics, one of the ones you do hear often is Bruce Springsteen's live Santa Claus is Coming to Town. And here comes another controversial opinion time. I think his version is overplayed and overrated, while this one is his best Christmas song.
Merry Christmas, baby. You surely treat me nice.
The song was originally recorded in 1947 and has been re-recorded by greats including Chuck Berry, Elvis Presley, and B.B. King. Now, unlike his fellow New Jerseyites Bon Jovi, Bruce understood how to perform this R&B classic. Listen to his phrasing. He knows what the blues is supposed to sound like. There's a casualness in this live version that feels unforced. It sounds like a jam session in front of a stadium audience, and they're having the time of their lives, which comes across to the listener. This is frolicking, rollicking fun. For number 5, we go back to Backdoor Santa. This time we get to hear the original, but you probably don't realize it because it's just a sample. Maybe the most famous Christmas sample ever. You could argue that Christmas rapping by the Waitresses is the first rap of Christmas, but this original track, the only one on the album, combines many of the early tropes of rap with a fantastical and humorous meeting of Santa Claus and the family Christmas dinner. Remember how food used to be popular in early rap? Originally, Run DMC didn't want to record on the album, but we should be glad that they changed their minds. This is a modern classic and keeps us chilling just like a snowman. Confessional time. In my early teens, I took music lessons, but not piano or guitar or any other popular instrument. Instead, being the son of Polish immigrants, I took accordion lessons. I gave up on it after a couple of years, but if I had known that the accordion could sound this good, I might have kept taking those lessons. John Mellencamp released The Lonesome Jubilee earlier that year to critical acclaim, and you can hear the accordion on his top 10 hits Paper and Fire and Cherry Bomb. John was changing his style from traditional rock to more folk and country, and this version of I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus reflects that. I even get a bit of a Zydeco feel from this, as this becomes more of a Christmas dance party song than your typical version, which tends to come off childlike or sometimes childish. I want to give a shout out to Crystal Talifer, whose background vocals help give this song added oomph. For me, this is the second best version of this song that I've ever heard, after, of course, the one from the Phil Spector Christmas album. My top 3 spots, as it turns out, are filled by 3 of the best female voices of the 80s. And all 3 are so different. At number 3 is arguably the most melancholy female rock voice, singing arguably the most melancholy Christmas song.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas.
The original version was sung by Judy Garland in the movie Meet Me in St. Louis and is now one of the most recorded Christmas songs. Its first draft of lyrics are even darker, with a line implying you might not be around next year. When Frank Sinatra recorded this, he requested to have the line, "Until then we'll have to muddle through," somehow changed, and it became the now standard, "Hang a shining star upon the highest bough." The song still retains this hint of sadness, looking forward to what's coming, while acknowledging the past hasn't been ideal. Chrissie Hynde's voice is so well suited for this song, sounding both world-weary and hopeful at the same time. And the arrangement of the song with its slow, languid guitars keeps that wistfulness going. I'm not one of those who can put on the holiday spirit instantly. And this song fits when I get in the mood and I need to wallow for a while. Being an atheist, I do prefer secular songs during this time of year instead of religious ones. However, number 2 takes me to church. And I don't mean Toronto's Gayborhood. Whitney Houston could be counted on for her powerhouse vocals on her pop hits, and she more than delivers here. She sings this with a confidence that can only come from years of choir and the lessons she learned from her mother Sissy and her mother's friends, including Aretha Franklin and Darlene Love. It's obvious Whitney wasn't just some Nepo baby riding her family's coattails, such as, say, Rockwell. This is one of those roof-raising performances that makes you want to take out your fan and wave it in the air and praise Jesus. Whitney was the voice of the 80s. But for me, she wasn't the vocalist of the 80s. She was great at what she did, no two ways about it. But one singer, for me, did more. One singer did rock, new wave, dance, ballads, and soul with a voice that never sounded out of place in any genre. She is a chameleon. She is one of a kind. She is Annie Lennox. Is it possible for someone to sound both cool and warm at the same time? Her vocal tone throughout this song manages to capture both and never lose either. She is able to maintain control but still pull off some jazzy improv scatting that doesn't feel out of place. And what also doesn't feel out of place are the opening lyrics, which are normally not included in most versions, though I did find one that Doris Day recorded. The sparse synth also gives this song that shivery feeling. It all ties together so perfectly. Even though there's no mention of Christmas at all, this is a quintessential holiday song. For me, it's the best version of this song that I've ever heard, and it is the best song on a very special Christmas. So there you have it. I tried to keep the reviews brief because the majority of these songs have been recorded over, and everyone has a favorite version of each of them, even if they're not on this album. But I hope you enjoyed my opinions on each of the songs, and if you liked this video, I would appreciate hitting the like button, ringing the bell for future notifications, and leaving a kind comment, as it does help the algorithm. I am this close to 1,500 subscribers, so reaching that would make a nice present. Not just a Christmas present, but I do turn the big 6-0 3 days after. I could use a birthday present as well. I'm glad I was able to get this video out before the holiday was over, and I do plan to keep making more. I am Gunkle Mark. Thank you for watching. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and I look forward to your next visit.